Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play DuckTales Remastered. Last we started off the game and now it's time for us to head to our first major level, the Amazon. I'm just going down the list this time around like last game.
Get Launchpad on the horn. I'm headed to the Amazon jungle to find the scepter of the Incan king. Thanks for the lift, Launchpad.
No problemo. Lift is one of my favorite principles of aerodynamics. Oh, say, you got your radio, Mr. McD?
Aye, of course I do.
Great! Then I'll be your eyes in the sky.
Oh, I'd be happy if you just keep your eyes on the sky for once. What an airhead.
Hey, I heard that.
Now then, ancient Incan legends claim the king's scepter was locked away in a giant temple of the clouds, and it should be dead ahead.
Gee, Mr. McD, I see a lot of clouds, but no temple.
You wouldn't, Launchpad. The legend says the temple was hidden away from all but King Manco Capquack himself. But there's bound to be a way to reveal it buried somewhere in this overgrown salad bowl, and I'm not leaving till I find it.
And now one thing I want to mention right off the bat is that this game's soundtrack is fantastic. Jake Coffin from Way Forward did the remixes of the game, and since he's played the original since he was apparently really young, he had very little issue doing this game comparatively because he had so many ideas for it. It came out really well. However, things aren't the exact same in the Amazon for one major reason.
Launchpad, I found an ancient coin depicting a nightingale.
You haven't stumbled across a pizza joint down there, have you, Mr. McD? I'm getting kind of hungry up here.
I'm not even going to dignify that question with a response.
Now, the thing is with this game is that it pulls a kind of a Resident Evil remake where the level design is more or less the same with only a few minor changes. However, within those level designs, they've added new submissions that you need to do in order to actually beat the level. For instance, in the original Amazon, we just had to go to the end of the level. This time around, we need to find coins in order to progress, and thankfully the map does mark them.
Another coin! And this one has an inscription of an eagle.
If you say went onto the map, no matter what difficulty you're on, even if you aren't on easy where the map is like completely filled to start, you would see little glowing places similar to the objective markers in Metroid Zero Mission or Fusion where these coins are, or where any objectives are in the future levels.
Aha! A coin bearing the image of the Queen's horse. Ha! It'll help us find the treasure for sure.
How can you tell, boss?
Never doubt the well-honed instincts of an experienced treasure hunter.
If you say so, Mr. McD.
And honestly, I like the addition of these little sub-objectives, because since they had to get rid of the whole, game has various endings due to how much treasure you got thing for the, not only the art gallery, but also just so the cutscenes could be a bit more consistent, they had to do something to make the levels a bit more interesting beyond just getting treasure, so they added in these nice little sub-objectives, and I like that. Plus, with a platforming game in particular, I'm much more open to areas having sub-objectives for some reason. I'm not exactly sure how to describe it, but it just feels right. Especially in levels like the Amazon, where there's so much level in the NES game that if you're just going straight for the exit, you might not explore, and therefore you just miss out on some of the game. And I'm fine with that kind of change, you know what I mean?
A coin showing the sun. Gads, I nearly tripped over it. This place is a mess. Where's Mrs. Beakley when you need her?
That's a good question, Scrooge. Similarly, though, they also left a lot of the secrets in place from the original game. If you remember where a lot of secret passageways were in the NES game, you'll probably find them here, and they'll still give you treasure. And I'm trying to remember, I don't think there actually is an achievement/trophy for getting everything in the art gallery, but it's a nice little gallery to look at. I don't show it off because spoiler things, but there is some really good art in there, even for the TV show. Though I don't think there was any hint to the new DuckTales in here. In fact, I think the new DuckTales partially came about due to this game's success, I want to say. Though the new DuckTales show is really good. David Tennant makes for a really good Scrooge.
Look at this. An ancient coin with the image of a scythe. It must represent a good harvest.
This is Launchpad, calling Mr. McD.
What is it, Launchpad?
I'm running a little low on fuel up here.
Well, where are the extra fuel canisters?
Well, that's why I'm calling you, boss. I checked the glove compartment, but all I found was gloves.
Oh, you'd best find those fuel canisters, or the next thing you'll be flying is a model airplane.
Okay. Last time I asked you for help.
Is that a promise?
Plus, I do like how the new show manages to preserve that same sense of adventure despite having radically different ideas going through it. And plus, I especially like that they actually gave Huey, Dewey, and Louie unique personalities without being absolutely bland like they were in Quack Pack. Sorry, Quack Pack's an interesting show and that I used to watch it when I was young, but coming back to it, it's just so boring.
Found another one, and it depicts the ruling might of a spear.
This is Launchpad, Mr. McD. Come in, Mr.
Launchpad, what was that?
Nothing, boss. I'm sure nobody was using that tree anyway. Except maybe them. And them. And also them.
That's a good example of what I brought up last part, where the voice lines kind of get ahead of the subtitles just because they're timed to end at the same time for some reason, so dead air like that also counts. Also, yeah, that's the thing. Falling chests can damage enemies, even though there's very few instances where it's useful.
Look at this one. It shows a shield. You know, I bet those Incans could have minted a whole lot more coins if they hadn't tried to make each one unique.
A solid point, but maybe each gold was worth more, Scrooge. Come on, you're the money man. You should know how economy works. Though, on the whole, the first third of this level is where things are really different. From here on out, the level is very similar to what it was in the NES game, just with the graphical overhaul, which I do like the look of this game.
Aha! This coin bears an image of the scales of justice. Just what I need to help me find the scepter.
You know, Mr. McD, I had a thought.
Launchpad, why start now and spoil a perfect record?
That's a good question.
Well, I don't have all day. What was your thought?
Come to think of it, I forgot.
Launchpad, were you dropped on your head much as a child?
All the time. Why?
Because between the hand-drawn sprites for everything and the 2.5D nature of the game just looks incredible.
Come in, Launchpad. I found something. There's a carving of Manco Capquack on this stone slab, and there's 8 succulent notches around it.
Sounds great. Does it tell us how to find the treasure?
Well, I'm not sure what it tells us, but I'm certain it's an important clue. Bless me bagpipes. These coins I found will fit perfectly into those notches.
Oh, you must have come across an ancient Incan poker table, Mr. McD. How about I come down there and you deal me in for a hand?
You come down here and I'll deal you a blow to the head. You're supposed to be keeping an eye out for trouble, remember?
All right. Trouble spotting it is.
Launchpad, what if the images on these coins symbolize the various tribes of Manco Capquack's empire? Maybe if I surround him with them. Oh no, it's not working.
Hey, maybe you need to say the magic words. Or maybe not.
Will you look at that? The ancient city of Manco Capquack. And that beam of light. It must be pointing to the Temple of the Clouds. But how am I going to get across?
Up here, Mr. McD.
And now, like in the NES game, we need to go over pretty much a long, bottomless pit with the occasional platforms while riding on the helicopter. This does remind me, though, one element that was removed from the game due to the money total not mattering as much in the long run. You might remember in DuckTales 1, there was a mechanic where a few levels you could find Launchpad, talk to him, and he would take you back to the level select. which you needed to do if you wanted to actually get like the best ending very easily, since that the money respawned when you went back through there. In fact, I sped those sections up, if I recall. That mechanic is entirely gone because, well, money just doesn't matter as much anymore. The Cloud mini game stage that happened when you went to certain stages, I think if you had like a 7 in one of the point totals, or otherwise it was just a 1 in 10 chance, is in the game though. And I think you need to have a 7 in the thousands place or 10,000s place. I forget. I rarely ever get it, though admittedly it's a lot more abusable in this game since you just need to go into the art gallery and purchase something until there's a 7 in that one of those 2 slots. You're not really going to see it in this playthrough. I'll tell you that now.
Whoa! I did it! I found the legendary temple of Manco Capquack.
With a little help from your old pal, Launchpad McQuack.
Oh, of course, Launchpad. I couldn't have done it without you. Now just hold on, and with a little luck, that scepter will be mine in no time.
And now we're in the temple portion of the stage, where things have changed, but also not really. The minor differences are noticeable, because like that's where Launchpad was in the NES game, I believe, right there. And the shortcut to the boss area is gone. Like, the area is still there, but it doesn't actually take you to the boss fight. We actually do need to go through that one pathway that takes us by that one statue. However, things over there aren't going to be the same as they were in the NES game anyway. The enemies here are actually still as annoying as they were back in the NES game, though, namely those respawning tribesmen. But on the whole, this area is not that hard. In fact, on the whole, this game isn't too hard, with only one real exception, which we'll see later on, which might be consistent with the NES game now that I think about it, really, but it also could just be because they're a bit kinder with the way the game mechanics work and such. Plus, the fact that game over doesn't send you back to the start of the game probably helps. By the way, something new is down here. Mrs. Beakley!
Mrs. Beakley, what are you doing here?
Someone has to make sure you get your daily nutrients, Mr. McDuck.
Ah, thank you kindly, dear.
Goodbye, Mr. McDuck, and be safe.
Now located in a good amount of the levels of the game is an area where you find Mrs. Beakley. She'll always give you at least a cake and an ice cream cone, I believe, though I think the cake might be replaced with another ice cream cone in some of the higher difficulties. But on medium and above mode, she'll always give you a 1-up, which is another difference in difficulty. Remember this statue that you had to give money to in the NES game? Yeah, you don't have to do that anymore. In fact, destroying it not only gets you an achievement, but it gives you money. So that's really useful to say the least. Though I should note, it is very possible to completely miss Mrs. Beakley, and you don't really need to worry about that too much, because this is one of those games where your life total resets, I want to say, either when you leave a stage or when you exit the game. Since I exited the game between each stage, my life total is more or less going to always start at level at 2. Mind you, 2 lives isn't more than enough, because this is also one of those games where 0 counts, but that is notable. Now, another difference between difficulties is, like I think I mentioned earlier, hard mode has no invincibility coins. It also doesn't have any cakes, which can be really detrimental if you take really risky moves. On the whole, though, it doesn't change the game too much. In fact, I think the bosses universally have the exact same pattern of health on difficulty. It's just really you that changes and what's available to you. This is probably the most annoying section of the stage just due to how many enemies there are around you, be it the spiders that you have to be kind of smart about dodging, or the tribesmen that are honestly not as aggressive as they were in the NES game in terms of speed, but due to your somewhat increased speed or maneuverability in the area, it can be kind of easy to get hit by. Now, one thing people who played the NES game might remember is that each level had a hidden treasure that gave you a good amount of money. Those are still in the game, right over here. However, on easy and medium mode, they're all replaced with health extensions. In the NES game, only 2 level had health extensions, meaning your max health was 5. However, on easy and medium in this game, your max health is 8. On hard mode, and I think even extreme mode, your max health is 5. In the other difficulties, those are replaced with the hidden treasures that give you $1 million each.
There it is, the King's Scepter. Well, this was easier to find than a penny in a parking lot. Catch me kilts! What was that?
And now it's time for our first boss fight, the Totem Head. This guy likes to move around the area, jumping occasionally. That will not really do anything during the first bit until he decides to leap back onto the statue in the background, which usually happens after the third hit. At this point, he's gonna go all Crusher on you. Actually, it reminds me of that one boss from Sonic 4 Episode 1, where he causes the walls and ceiling and even floor to rise in certain ways, and you just have to avoid getting crushed. I'm not sure if crushing in this case is instant death, because frankly, I've never gotten hit by this attack. After that, he repeats his pattern. However, the more damage you do, the more attacks he gets. Like at this point, he has a ground pound attack that I suck at dodging for some reason. You just need to jump with the right timing there. And then we just loop and repeat with the things getting a bit more faster, and this attack going on longer, I believe. I think the floor and ceiling can only ever go, in terms of the safe spot, being all the way on the left, all the way on the right, or in the center. But even then, I think it depends on how far you are in the fight. Now, one thing I should also mention is Extreme Mode. I think I mentioned that a couple of times at this point. You get that by beating Hard Mode. And it's basically Hard Mode, only Hard Pogo, which is, I think, the NES version's Pogo, where you have to hold down, is on by default. And you cannot, like, turn it off at all. And there's just no saving. You do get an achievement for beating that, though, so if you're going for completionist, you do have to do that. I'll talk more about the trophy list next part, though, because at this point, the boss is almost dead. The pattern's pretty simple. In fact, like I said, I don't think there's actually a single hard boss in this game, but they are good bosses. Also, I love the boss theme. And I also like how the bosses actually get some good environmental damage on themselves based on how much damage you've done to them. Like, this guy is slowly crumbling, and now he's just gonna go, well, ow.
Hurry, Mr. McD! This place is falling to pieces!
No! I'm not leaving without that scepter. Get us out of here, Launchpad! I cannot believe we came all this way for nothing. What's the meaning of this?
Outsider, our prophecies have long foretold that our ancient city would one day be returned to us. For hundreds of years we have waited, and at last that day has come.
You mean you're not mad at me?
Mad? Quite the contrary, feathered one. Is there anything we can do to repay you?
Well, now that you mention it, I did come here looking for an ancient scepter. I didn't suppose...
Does it look like this? It fell from the temple.
All that climbing for nothing, eh, Mr. McD?
Bless me bagpipes, the scepter of the Incan king!
It is yours. Take it and go in peace. After all, it was just the old king's back scratcher.
And that's the end of the Amazon. None of the stages, at least the 5 stages in this game, are too hard because they realize that any of them can be your first choice. But on the whole, I think it is the easiest stage in the game just because it's the most familiar to me. And you tally up your gold after every single level. You get modifier, you get additional money based off your difficulty. You get 1 million for the treasure at the end, 1 million more if you got the secret treasure on hard mode or above. And all the other stuff's just tallied together.
The scepter of the Incan king. I tell you, boys, there's something special about this treasure.
Really, Uncle Scrooge? Yeah, it just looks like an old back scratcher to us.
You boys need to learn some respect for the finer things in life. Now, if you're done having fun at your old uncle's expense, help me decide where we should go next.
Alright, but with that, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 3, we'll be heading off to our next level, whichever one of the main 4 that is, though if we're just going down by the list, I think you can very obviously tell. Either way, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys then.